Hello, good afternoon. Well, I didn't know that my CV was supposed to be read in such a detail, otherwise I would have shortened it very dramatically. I cannot fail to you with such a massive CV. It was not the intention, sorry for that. Maybe what I'm proposing to share with you in the coming, let's say, 20 minutes, it's what is on the screen. So my topic is around cash-based transfers in the humanitarian responses. I will touch the subject very briefly, introducing the very basic concepts of cash-based assistance. Then I move to a specific experience of one of the main donors, which is DG ECHO, European Commission Humanitarian Office. This is an office where I work for the last 10, 12 years. I have my task very facilitated because my ex-boss, for those of you that were here late in the morning, my ex-boss already provided a good description of what ECHO is and the main priorities of ECHO. So he saved me a couple of minutes. I was very pleased to see that he's in a good shape. And then I share with you a couple of details of cash-based assistance programs in two specific countries, one in Nigeria and the other one is in Jordan. This is the countries where I was posted. So I was, to some extent, related with implementation of cash-based assistance in this country. I'm not a cash-based expert, by no means. I'm not an academic neither, so I'm halfway, and I dare to share with you this topic. First of all, because the topic is very important. Today, cash transfers in the humanitarian sector is very, very trendy, is very important, is gaining a tremendous momentum, and I will share with you some figures later on for you to see the size of cash. Another reason why I'm daring to share with you this, because I myself was on the recipient side of the cash. What I mean is, let me share with you a couple of intimacies. We are in Portugal. Yeah, cash is considered innovative. This is what DG ECHO director said this morning, and it is very, very, very innovative. Because there's around cash action, cash response. There's a lot of new things, you know. Particularly regarding technologies, but also regarding the organization, the programming, and so on and so on. But cash is not new at all. Cash is being done for, I would say now, for a couple of centuries. You know, I mean, in India, the British government organized cash for work programs, and again, because it's Portugal, let me give you two examples related to the Portuguese space, to the previous Portuguese space, I would say. One, it was in Macau, since it was mentioned that I'm coming from there. Well, in Macau during the World War, when the Japanese invaded Hong Kong, there are a number of people from Hong Kong that got refugee in Macau, and they were offered the possibility to either to receive in-kind assistance or receive cash. And some of them, the choice was for the cash. So you can see, so this is mid-40s, late 40s of past century, you know. So, and then much more recently, during the wave of the independence of the Portuguese colonies in Africa, particularly Angola and Mozambique, yeah, around, no one knows for certain how many were they or were us. Portuguese or people from Portuguese origin or Portuguese that returned to Portugal. Well, the term return is a bit discussable, because some of the people, many of the people that came to Portugal in the mid-70s, late 70s, were second generation, third generation Portuguese, so didn't return to Portugal. Indeed, they came to Portugal. Well, at the time, the Portuguese government already involved on a number of very difficult situations, this political instability, the revolution, and so on and so on. Well, the Portuguese government was able to set up an office. Well, it was indeed an institute of supporting the return of nationals, and they trigger massive programs of support for these people coming from the ex-colonies. Well, one of the support, which is very diverse support, one of the modalities was supporting the university students, well, with cash and vouchers. I was one of the beneficiaries. So I was coming from Angola, so I was a very young university student, and here, as you can see me, I was a beneficiary of a voucher and cash program. So if you want to know about the tricky things, about how to use the cash and the vouchers, ask me. Of course, I cannot make it official. I'm joking. Of course, I used it very, very wisely. Okay, let's move to the slide. I have to go there to control the. Is a remote control for the laptop? No. Yeah. It's here. Very sophisticated. It's not here. Okay. Sorry. It's after lunch. It's terrible. Okay. I start now. As I told you, I have many slides, so it's flooded with more than words, with pictures. It was, let's say, a kind of mistake from a practitioner. Just to tell you, in the academia, we are not that perfect, so we have to confess our mistakes. Yeah, but it was on purpose also. I mean, it's to wake you up, to give a colorful picture of the world, because we are talking about some dramas. So, I mean, the purpose was to give some colors. Okay. Okay, first, this one. Please consider the graph on the center, or maybe not. Consider this one. You can see it. It's probably on purpose. Well, it's to give an dimension of the crisis. As mentioned this morning, around 200 million people require humanitarian aid today. This is the figures. I mean, 68 million people being displaced, refugees, and so on and so on. Okay, so the amount of funds required, maybe, are you 11? Neck problem. Okay. Back to the central graph, what is important to see is the increase needs. Yeah, the needs increase over time, but also the gap between the needs and the amount of funds. So, okay, this is an issue. A second element is there's a growing number of people, of humanitarians or people working in humanitarian, that use the money to provide support to those in need. You cannot read this, but when you look, I mean, this will be available, the presentation for you. You can see some figures here. I mean, the total amount, the estimated amount of humanitarians in the world today is around 550,000 people. Yeah, most of these humanitarians are nationals, and most of them belong to or work for the National Red Cross. Third, this is the organization of the humanitarian system. Well, donors, front practitioners, and so on and so on. So, last observation regarding this slide is this one here that you can see. I'm sorry for this. Well, you'd say 40% of the required funds are not available. Is that so? Well, I don't think it's exactly that the picture, because if it would be like this, then the number of refugees would not be kept increasing. Indeed, there are some funding not represented on this. This is the UN figures. It's not contemplate ICRC, does not contemplate funds like remittances, or in the Middle East, what is called the Solidarity funds, called zakat, things like this that should be considered. Indeed, the gap it's still tremendous, but the gap, fortunately, is much less than what is shown in the picture. Second, in this slide, what I want to share with you is the definitions of cash. So cash transfer, it's what basically is transfer of money, could be sometimes not the transfer exactly of money, could be the transfer of food coupon or what is called a voucher, the voucher could be a token that you can access to services and to specific commodities and not the money, and sometimes also the money. When you transfer the money or the voucher without strings, without any conditionalities, you are in the presence of what is called multi-purpose cash transfer. And this is what the cash should be about in most of the circumstances. Whenever possible, move into multi-purpose cash transfer. I mean, it's still very polemic. There's a number of debate. There's a number of organizations, including USA, to talk about the largest donor in the world, where they are much more cautious and precautious than ECHO or the FID, the British, and so on. Here, on the right side, what I wanted to highlight is this. You have the center, the cash-based assistance. The cash-based assistance is scaling up, is improving, is getting better by the day, by a number of initiatives. But then the cash-based assistance is not alone. It's in the middle of a contest. This contest is changing. You know, for instance, one of the reasons why cash is been expanding so much is because there is a growing trend in urbanization. Yeah, either in a context of normalcy, fragility, or in a context of refugees. Most of the refugees today in the world, they settle in urban contexts, which facilitate, of course, the aid provision and, in particular, the cash. Then the use of cash in humanitarian setting is really expanding. And one of the reasons, there are several reasons, but one of the main reasons is related to a number of initiatives that happen over the recent years. And one of the initiatives it was the setup of a high-level panel on humanitarian cash transfer. This was made up of key individuals with very high political profile, ex-ministers, and so on and so on. And these people got together to say, these are cash converted. Okay, we need to give a push for cash. They set up this high level. It was supported by the secretariat, was done by ODI, the Overseas Development Institute in the UK, which is one of the best think tanks in the world. So all these people get together and put a number of things on a paper that, I mean, show the direction for the cash. Another initiative for if you and I would like to, to pay attention to this name is CALP, Cash Learning Practice Network. Cash is a platform of around 60 different organizations, 5,000 individuals, and this is the most consistent initiative that keeps supporting cash development. Another recent, of course, initiative, it was the World Humanitarian Summit and the associated Grand Bargain, where a number of commitments were made by different actors, donors, different organizations. So I commit to double the amount of cash that I will do by 2025. This is something, for instance, that the British Cooperação will decide to do. And then, of course, in the middle of all this, for me, the most probably significant push for the use of cash vouchers, it was the Syrian crisis. If there is a positive side of the Syrian crisis, very difficult to find one, but if there was this one. The Syrian crisis trigger unparalleled amount of research, amount of evidence that is allowing the humanitarian aid to move into innovative ways, on better directions, and so on. Then on the right side of the screen, you can see figures. So, yeah, it's today 10%, a little more than 10% of the total humanitarian aid is made via the use of cash and vouchers. So 10% means $2.8 billion. So for you to see the amount of funds that are involved on humanitarian responses. These are the figures for 2016, and for you to appreciate the trend from 15 to 16, it increased 40%. And from 2014 into 2016, the amount of cash and vouchers was 100%. So these are the trends. I don't think that it keeps going like this, but some people would say, well, maybe it's too much. Maybe people say, well, maybe it's too little. Yeah, according to another think tank, GPPI, they say, well, cash could account for 40% of the total humanitarian aid. If while you will not be there, we will not take full advantage of all the positive aspects of cash and vouchers. But this is very uneven because out of the $2.8 billion, there are two-thirds of this is done by two single organizations, two UN organizations. One is WFP, World Food Program, and the other one is UNHCR, the High Commission for Refugees. And then the next 8 in the league are NGOs, and then it comes UN again. And then here, it's again some of the commitments. I already mentioned the FID1. World Vision is committed to increase, to do cash and vouchers. 50% of their aid by 2020 will be cash and vouchers. And the very ECHO, the organizations I work for until recently for many years. So ECHO had made the pledge to reach 35% by 2017. They already are above that, so they are very much on the good track. So the narrative of cash needs to change, because now it's no more, shall we do cash? It's already gone. I mean, the cash and vouchers prove the value, very efficient. Yeah, you can do more with the same amount of money. This is what is shown here. You can see, sorry. So the same amount of money, according to a number of studies carried out by the ODI that I mentioned a while ago, you can benefit 18% more of the people with the same amount of the value transferred to the people. So you can see the value of the cash and the vouchers. Something that the cash, some attributions, something that is being attributed to the cash, that the cash is disruptive. The cash is challenging the humanitarian architecture, you know, and it is good. Indeed, I will elaborate a little bit further later on this issue. So this is typically an intervention, UNHCR program, multi-purpose cash transfer. So UNHCR, the main purpose of UNHCR is to provide protection. Protection means software and hardware initiatives. So you need to provide material assistance. So the people need outcomes in terms of food, shelter, water, and so on and so on. So when you do a multi-purpose cash transfer, is that so that with a single multi-purpose cash transfer, you can solve all the protection and you can address all the outcomes? Not at all. Cash is important, but cash is not a silver bullet. Cash is not a panacea. Cash should be done together with something else. When you need to provide public goods to the people in need, like education, water, you need to provide other type of service. So the cash should go together with something else. That's why now it's used very much this terminology, cash plus. You see, you know, the people involved in this, it's unlimited imagination, yeah, which is good. So cash plus means doing cash together with, complemented with something else. Well, and then it's, you can do cash without considering, yeah, these four aspects. One on the left corner is about technologies. Today, most of the cash use these technologies, digital money, mobile money, yeah, transfer to mobile. People that illiterate may use the mobile. Mobile phones are spread everywhere. You can find people with mobile phones in the most unexpected place around the world. Well, you know, you can transfer money through the mobile. Then the second important aspect, or the crucial aspect of humanitarian cash transfers is, of course, coordination. Now, if there is, and the coordination today, everybody agrees, is still ad hoc, is still unreliable, is still fragmented. So there is a need for a big push of coordination. And when you talk about coordination, you talk about coordination along this spectrum, and the spectrum is from a technical point of view to a strategic point of view to convince governments to embark on coordination. And then there is a gender aspect of this. As you know, humanitarian crises are not gender neutral. You know, women and girls are disproportionately affected by crisis. So when you do cash, are you exposing further women and girls, or are you indeed managing to provoke and generate some transformation, some transformative, and thus far, there's a lot of, the gaps are immense still today, but thus far, the evidence available is this cash and vouchers is giving women some degree of autonomy that, is linked to dignity and decision power. And the third, the other element is risks. You know, the time is gone for, very sorry, because this is a people, these are guys with their feet on the water and drinking beer. Well, and some people say, well, you see, you distribute cash, here it goes, the cash is appropriated by the man, and the man make not a correct use of the cash. This is not true. Never proved have any evidence of this. If people were responsible before being refugees or displaced, the people are even more responsible when they are in a very difficult situation, you know. So what is important, but the risks are there. There's a number of risks, but what's important is this, the evaluations that the evidence generated allow to identify mitigation measures that can reduce the risks. And then here, it's just, you will see when you look at the graphs in the tranquility of a good cafe, you know, you see some figures for the different organizations. Yeah, particularly this one here is WFP, the top number one. We are talking about $1.7 billion transferred as cash and vouchers in 2018. Yeah, and 2019, WFP expects to transfer $2.1 billion out of, I don't know how much they have the share of the cake. But you see, everybody is increasing. The figure, the slide, allow me to make an observation regarding data, because data are crucial on everything. And I tried hard to collect data from UNICEF. I wasn't able. Or maybe I should write to UNICEF saying, look, you know, I mean, your colleagues, WFP, UNHCR, blah, 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 FAO, very easy to find data. I can't find data from you. I don't know why they don't make data public, unless I'm missing the point, which could be very much the situation. So, the last slide regarding this introduction, yeah, it's on the top left is still under questions. Well, the question is basically at the stage where we are, well, for every crisis and every response, we should make the question, well, if not now, when? If you're saying that you can't do cash now, then when are you supposed to do cash? This reverses completely the picture. Of course, there are a number of cases when you don't have markets, particularly for good, you cannot do cash. You should not do cash. Or in North Korea, I was in DPRK, the Democratic Republic of Korea. I was there in a number of times, the markets are very incipient. The markets are government controlled fully. Well, it doesn't make many sense to do cash and vouchers in a context like this. It's a context not of a conflict. It's a context of stability. But of course, I mean, it's even in such a situation, you don't do cash and vouchers. So basically, it's the future revolves around funding, guaranteed funding, routinely consider cash, the capacity, the coordination. And then here is more and more a recommendation, don't do parallel systems. If there is a safety net in a country, yeah, try to use the safety net to provide humanitarian assistance. Well, you could say, well, but where are those countries where there is a government-run safety net program? Well, for instance, just the most, I would say, the most known one is Ethiopia. In Ethiopia, is something that is called productive safety nets that every year provide support between 4 and 5 million people. When there is a drought, this very safety net expands vertically and horizontally to cover more people affected by the drought, and so the humanitarian system and funds largely are channeled through the existing system. So this is a kind of rule and orientation. So the future guidance, I think it's will be largely dictated by what the main donors are, let's soften it, imposing, not proposing. Yeah, in last February, the top 10 donors, international donors, yeah, they got together and they signed a statement. Yeah, and they say, okay, for the benefit of efficiency, effectiveness, dignity of the people, and so on, cash should be done on a different way, more coordinated, concentrated, and so on. And then, a couple of months before, the UN, for me, it was a big surprise, a very good surprise, I would say. The UN got together and they themselves agreed that they have to work together and coordinate in a better way. There is a country where this issue it's gaining momentum. I know that there is a colleague that is working in Lebanon. In Lebanon, this orientation from the donors caused some turmoil. So I move now to ECHO, very fast. Yeah, since the ECHO director, much better than me this morning, he already talked about his baby. So ECHO is, I would say, is one of the top donors. Probably the setting of ECHO is unique in the world because ECHO has 150 internationals on the field on a permanent way. And then we work together with, let's say, 300, 400 national colleagues, 40 offices, 7 regional offices around the world, 200 partners, and this is the way ECHO provides humanitarian assistance. Well, there are a few other specific issues with ECHO. ECHO, it's very outspoken about saying, okay, we consider every year when we do the programming, we consider what is called the forgotten crisis, because these are the crises that no longer comes in the first page of any newspaper or CNN and so on. Okay, the nearest forgotten crisis is the Sahrawi refugees in south of Algeria. This is a caseload that is lasting for 30 years now or more, and ECHO continues to provide every year support. Is a typical example of a forgotten crisis. Another aspect of ECHO is doing, I would say, very well, is investing very much in preparedness. You know, for every dollar or every euro that you invest on preparedness, maybe is the equivalent to 7 euros in an average response, average quality response. And then education in emergencies. Until a few years ago, education was considered a development issue. So it's not up to the humanitarians. So if the kids have to go to the schools, no, it's not up to the humanitarians. Well, ECHO was in the forefront, and the ECHO director himself was called a champion, is really something that he can be proud of, because now education in emergencies is part of the main menu. So these are the figures for ECHO. Yeah, in 2017, 38% of the humanitarian support, the humanitarian response was via cash and vouchers. This is equivalent to almost 1,000 million euros, 990, and most of this was carried out by cash. And 79%, sorry, multi-purpose cash transfer. You mean you provide cash to the people without any conditionality, without any restriction. The people, they own the money and they take the decision how, when, where to use this support they receive. And then I have to send this slide to my boss for him to be very happy, because indeed this is what I call it here, ECHO footprint. Indeed, it's a number of initiatives that ECHO took. I mean, I'm lost. I don't want to pass the message that ECHO only do the good things. Not at all. I mean, we also did mistakes, but there are the good things that ECHO did. It was definitely on cash of the vouchers. If you want to know more about cash and vouchers, there is a plethora of publications in the ECHO website. Yeah, some of them I put there. And then this is the new way of working. You know, instead of having for a specific country, specific program, for having 40 different organizations with 40 different teams for doing assessments, and then 40 different modalities to make the transfer, and so on and so on and so on. I mean, now there is a belief that this can be done in a much more rational way for the benefit of the people. Much more money will be arriving to the beneficiaries. This is the purpose. If things will be done different, this is what is shown here. So there will be the delivery of the cash, the use of the cards, the issuance of the cards, and so on, will be a private sector. But maybe the private sector is doing this much better than any humanitarian organization, because this is their job. This is what they really are good to do. So you negotiate with them the prices, I mean the costs of this, of course. But then you do the rest. You do the assessments, you do the targeting, you do the monitoring, and so on and so on. But don't try yourself to do everything, because the others have a comparative advantage of doing this better than you. Then I move to the final part of my intervention, Nigeria versus Jordan. I try to put there some commonalities and some differences. The commonality is the two of them. They are two humanitarian crises caused by conflict. It's not by what is called a natural cause. Yeah, it's conflict in both of the cases, but then maybe this is possibly the only thing in common, because from then you have all the differences. In Nigeria, you have IDPs, internal displaced people. In Jordan, you have refugees, people that crossed the border into the country. Yeah, in Nigeria, the people that moved around in the country, they're Nigerian citizens that are those affected by the conflict. And then in Nigeria, Nigeria is, I mean, I'm talking about the conflict in the north, is a very volatile situation, even today. I mean, the claim of the Nigerian governments that they will erase from the map these bastards, sorry for the word, the bastards of Boko Haram in 2 years. This is not happening, and no one believes at this stage it is going to happen. Yeah, even if the Nigerian army is one of the most powerful in Africa, it's deeply rooted into the population, the issue. So it's not like this. So you will see, and then something dramatically different is the cash and vouchers in Nigeria is vouchers, while the cash and vouchers in Jordan is basically cash rather than vouchers, despite the fact that still. Yeah, and then this is the Nigeria. Yeah, so you can see I just put together a number of elements that talk about, gives you the panorama of the country. So a lot of structural issues, poverty, corruption, inequalities, wrong policies. In Nigeria there is this very common oil curse, because we are an oil exporter country, so we can solve everything. Even, disinvesting in agriculture when most of the people make their livelihoods out of agriculture. So this is this is a cereal pyramids in Nigeria from many years ago. So it's no longer there, because the oil will solve everything. And then Nigeria as a fantastic challenge. Nigeria they are 200 million now. Yeah, past year they were 196 million. It means in 1 year the Nigerian population increased 4 million. It means that overnight, yeah, there were more 13,000, 14,000 people. You know, I mean, in a country with all these tensions, you know, yeah, lack of natural resources, conflict and pastoralists and agriculturalists, which is the cause of that higher than the conflict caused by Boko Haram. Yeah, this is the reason of the killings, you know. And then you have the Biafra thing boiling up, yeah, political manipulation, of course, yeah. And then you have these guys in the south, yeah, with oil takes place. They're called the Avengers, really Rambos. You look at the pictures, these guys probably they're fitting, yeah, out of the Rambo movies. It's very, 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 very scary. Yeah, making sabotage and so on and so on. And then you have religious conflict. Well, but at the same time, I don't want to, say the Nigeria. Yeah, the Nigerians are fantastically enthusiastic people, and they have people of tremendous quality, like this lady. This lady is one of the Under Secretary General, is one of the right arms of Antonio Guterres in the UN. She was very much the person behind the Sustainable Development Goals. She's Nigerian, you know, Nigeria, yeah, very, very, very young population, so all this vitality, but the demographics are terrible. And then, yeah, and then also Nigeria, yeah, Lake Chad. Lake Chad is a natural catastrophe. You know, you can see if you this was Lake Chad, the surface of the Lake Chad in the 60s. This is the surface of Lake Chad 5 years ago. You know, 20 million people have their livelihoods around Lake Chad that is going to disappear. Yeah, because of wrong policies and because of climate change as well. And the Boko Haram thing has some reasons because of the expansion of the Boko Haram is related to the Lake Chad natural situation, which prove that, the reasons for conflict are in most of the cases, absolutely interlinked. You know, and then you see, this is a picture, a photo that went around the world. This is the Chibok girls. I mean, these 220 girls that were kidnapped by Boko Haram, I mean, a few years back, and most of them, they still are somewhere with the Boko Haram guys. So over there, the situation is a situation where this map wants to show this volatility that I mentioned a while ago. So for the same municipality, the same commune, you have at the same simultaneously people are coming back and people leaving, because the reasons for coming back and the reasons for leaving are different. So it's very volatile situation in Nigeria, in the northeast of Nigeria. This relates to the 2018 programming, the humanitarian response plan for Nigeria, which around 30% was supposed to be done via cash and vouchers, for you to see the dimension. So $1,000 million, 290 were programmed to be done via cash and vouchers. And then really, well, these are the actual figures. So, I mean, it's around $13, $14 million a month being transferred in Nigeria. Yeah, these are the number of agencies involved. Yeah, and these are the different pictures of the situation in Nigeria. So most of the people are not living in the camps. People are living among the resident population, having the same problems with the population. But I mean, to large extent, the crisis being an opportunity. I visited a number of schools, and for instance, yeah, because of the crisis, there was additional money. So this additional money, as part of the schools, were used to receive refugees. The refugees were settling and using some of the classrooms. And for instance, the water system, the water supply to the school had been redone, expanded, thanks to humanitarian money. So, I mean, crises are also the opportunities, you know. And as always you say, crisis and normalcy are the two sides of the same coin. They are absolutely together in most of the situations. Well, let me introduce a note before moving to Jordan. Well, when I was there, 5 minutes, I finished, okay, yeah. When I was there, I was leaving one of the refugee camps, and I saw this guy, something very unusual, and then I look at the guy with attention, and the guy was wearing a t-shirt, yeah, saying Portugal. Well, this was a couple of months before the European Cup. Sorry for the French people in the room, but it was probably, this guy already knew that Portugal would win the European Cup with a lot of luck, of course, but I mean, we got it. Well, I skip this and I move into Jordan. Well, Jordan, 1.3 million Syrians in the country. Half of them are registered, officially registered. If you are officially registered, you are entitled to support. If you are not registered, you are not entitled. So people that are not registered, they have good reasons to not register, or some of them they have another status. They are official migrants. So something that is happening in this is the 9th year of the crisis in Jordan. Well, at the beginning, the Syrian refugees were very much welcome by the communities, because only 16% of the Syrians are living in camps. There are 3 main camps, refugee camps in Jordan, and the remaining living among the population in the most poor, in the poorest areas of Jordan, particularly around Amman, Mafraq, and so on and so on, particularly here in the north. Well, over time, the tensions between the Syrians and the local communities start building up. That's why Now the strategy is a little bit different in, just to make a break here. So this is Zaatari, is the second largest refugee camp in the world, is the fourth town in Jordan. He grew up. The main road in the camp is called Champs-Élysées. Just, you know, someone as was creative enough. So, and the people, after so many years, they went back. This man was a tailor, yeah, so he's back to being a tailor. So it's protected classes, you know, it's, you make your living, you try to make your life as... another element of Jordan is second camp is called Azraq. Azraq is food, the energy. Energy is an issue, is a main element on any refugee camp. So all the energy for Azraq is solar. You know, it's one of the examples that a crisis can generate indeed very, very good practice. And this is a very tricky situation. Is under around 40,000 people, 30,000 people, Syrians close to the border. The border is closed. You know, they are stuck over there. It's a very, very difficult situation. So very, very rapidly to say, Jordan and Lebanon are exactly the two cases to illustrate what I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, that Syrian crisis indeed trigger a number of very good initiatives, you know, on a number of fronts. So one is called the vulnerability assessment. The other is the registration of the refugees. The refugees are registered. Look at the iris. Is biometric. They look at the iris, you know. And then some of the refugees, they take money out of the ATMs, yeah, without any card. So they go to approach the ATM. The ATM read the iris, and they are identified. So is the PIN number is indeed the iris of each one. So I mean, monitoring the evaluations and so on and so on. Okay, the last, yeah, almost the last is this. Drawing that I did this last time I was in Jordan, yeah, is an illustration of the different types of cash. Is cash, I mean, all the different formats of cash in terms of duration, 12 months, 1 year, in terms of the size, in terms of one-off, cash for winter, cash for education, cash for documentation, multi-purpose cash transfer, child cash grants by UNICEF. You can find anything and everything, all modalities of cash in Jordan, and with well, mostly with well done and so on. So I don't think this is very important. We just to, you will see is the results of an evaluation, and this evaluation is showing the preferences of the people, where the people use the money, and of course these evaluations and findings should feed back into the programming to adjust the programming. So thank you. Sorry for this long. Yeah.